The kind of anger that we're seeing around the globe is, of course, part of what Occupy Wall Street's all about. This is the weekend when it's going beyond the U.S. and U.S. cities. It's coming to Canada. It's coming to other cities. It's an interesting momentum, Kevin. Something that started with, you know, a couple of hundred people that now is spreading right around the world with a kind of a through line. There are different sort of ideas from the participants of what's going on. The through line has to do with something around equity and a sense that something really bad has unfolded, that we're living in the kind of world that a lot of people don't want to live in.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually disappointed in these protesters because they haven't focused on a single voice. They haven't advanced any ideas that are really going to be useful. I don't mind protesting. I think that's what makes our society great. You can have a protest. You can point your point of view. But we don't have any points of view. We've got a bunch of people. I'm in New York. I went down to the park. I had a look at it today.
You did?
There's nothing going on there. It's a party. There's a bunch of guys with guitars.
I hope you wore a mask or something, because there are people down there who might not be big fans of yours.
I just wanted to find out if there's any concrete ideas. You know what the answer? No.
All right, we're going to do some more talking about that coming up in the show with two of the organizers of protests here in Canada. Coming up, the co-founders of Occupy Canada Facebook group tells us why Canadians need to join the movement, even if our banks aren't fully to blame for the financial crisis. One of the biggest themes of the Occupy movement has been income inequality, the richest 1% versus the other 99%. So how does it look in Canada? Well, here's a look at the top 1% in Canada by the numbers. In 2007, the richest 1% here made 24% of the income. In the U.S. and Canada, that share was 13.8%. Anyone making more than $169,000 falls into that category. There are 246,000 Canadians who do, making an average of $404,000. The other 99%, they average $37,000 each. The top 1%, though, do pay their way. Back in 2007, that was 28% of total personal income tax revenue, on the federal level, that is. The trend has many worried, though. From 1976 to 2007, the average income for 99% of Canadians rose by 10%. For the richest 1%, incomes increased 182%. Kevin, we've talked about this before, of course. Many would say it doesn't really matter if there's a gap between the rich and the poor. What matters if the rate of growth starts to stagnate for the middle class. That's the real concern. If the middle class doesn't have a decent life and can't actually afford things, your economy is not going to keep growing. And in the end, that's bad for rich people, too.
I think this is very inspirational, and I thank you for bringing this up, Amanda. I want every Canadian to make $404,000. That's the minimum. We all want to do that. That's exactly what we should aspire to. We should hold out those entrepreneurs and individuals who have achieved that at the highest pinnacle of respect, because we all need to get there. This is the true essence of capitalism.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate it. I love it.
Yeah, I guess more people would say we should go back to the Henry Ford mentality of you should pay your workers enough to buy the product that they're making so that the wealth gets spread around, and more people actually would increase their wealth and become rich. I don't think anybody's saying they don't want to be rich. They're just saying more people should have a shot at it.
Amanda, finally you're on side. Let's celebrate greed. Let's get everybody on side to be rich. That's what we want in Canada. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to showcase what success is, define it, and let people try and achieve it. That's what we need.
All right. Well, as mentioned, we're going to move on now, Kevin. Protesters will denounce income inequality tomorrow right here in Toronto. That's when Canadians take to the streets to occupy Bay Street. Like its older cousin, Occupy Wall Street, the demonstration has been organized mostly with social media. We've got two of those organizers with us today. Derek Sobral and John Allen are the co-founders of the Occupy Canada group on Facebook. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
So let's start, John, with how you got involved. Why does this matter to you so that you felt like you wanted to pull a group together in Canada?
Well, it matters to me because I'm witnessing, obviously, this divergence in the incomes of people. There are really, the main things that I'm concerned with are corporate accountability and a protection of the middle class.
Yep.
Of course, we need to increase the functional distribution of income for the middle class and those who have lesser incomes than the middle class, like
you were
the poor.
Inspired by what was going on Wall Street, and you felt like
yeah, honestly, it's true.
Echoed?
And I've been involved with social activist movements as well for a number of years.
Yeah.
I do feel that, you know, obviously this and I'm going to use the word exploitation of the poor has been ongoing. It's one of the facets of capitalism. Now, I'm not personally anti-capitalist per se. I actually would call for a more responsible form of capitalism, a more regulated form of capitalism. Now, a lot of people would say, hey, you know, regulation is bad, goes against the tenets of free market capitalism, let's say, right? But we've witnessed that in a free market, exploitation can occur. We have the freedom to exploit others. And with this freedom, if we can exploit others, you're taking away the freedom of others, and therefore it negates this so-called freedom. So free market economics is really, it's impossible. It negates itself. So what we're calling for is greater regulation, but with support for enterprise, so we can still have progress. And the other thing...
Some limits, in other words.
Pardon me?
Some limits, in other words.
Yeah, limits, you know.
Okay.
We just responsibility, some sort of accountability. The other thing is we would like to also see more power to the people. Major corporations tend to extract resources, and the profits from these resources end up being held by just a small group of people, you know, the shareholders and those people who happen to actually work for the company. I mean, if you look at Peter Monk, for instance, and Barrick Gold, I understand that in Tanzania, 19 villagers were just killed because they were protesting
You're getting into a company that I know pretty well.
I know. And I don't want to get too
My husband worked for Barrick for years, so
yeah.
I don't want to talk about that, although
Sure.
there are those who would say Peter Monk has done amazing things for Tanzanians, among others, creating great wealth where there was none. So I'm going to let Kevin in on this conversation because I'm sure he's champing at the bit. Kevin?
Yeah, I am chomping the bit. I just listened to that interesting discussion. Can you please explain to me specifically what you would have a wealthy Canadian that's made all of his money in a hard-earned way, celebrated capitalism, created jobs for Canadians, and is now stinking rich? What specifically do you want him to do with his money?
Pay more tax.
Pay more tax.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because then we can actually use that income. Let's put it this way. If somebody's if he's
What
stinking
gives
rich,
you the right
if he's
to tax
stinking
the rich?
if
Why-
he's
why
stinking
should you
rich,
tax
he
the
can make
rich?
$500,000 or more. He's still going to make good money, right? I mean, his quality of life is still going to be the same. But we're talking about people's access to disposable income in the lower brackets. When people have more disposable income in the lower brackets, that money gets put right into the real economy. And then demand is increased, and corporations can still make more profit.
I want to bring Derek in. Derek, one of the things that Occupy everywhere, Occupy Wall Street, now Occupy all the other cities, really resonates with is that people feel passionately that there's something wrong has gone on here. One of the problems that's been identified is there's kind of a concrete solution. I think a lot of people would say the idea of capitalism with more regulation, not unfettered capitalism, is a good idea. What do you mean exactly? What do you, if you had to put up a list of 3 demands, what's on the list?
Well, I think that's to be engaged with a conversation with the public, and I think we haven't got to that level yet. It's engaging in the conversation. This is a great moment in human history. People are coming together around the world, millions of people. There are millions of people that are engaged politically right now. We're looking at fundamental changes, economic equality. We're sick and tired of banks being bailed out and people on mainstream paying for their economic insecurities.
Yeah.
You know, so basically what's happening right now is there's austerity measures being put on countries. Countries are defaulting on debts, and there's people that are fighting and they're losing jobs. And you know what? It's happening on Wall Street. The 1% are stealing from the poor.
Well, I think what he's trying to say is the onus of repayment is being shifted to the poor.
It's being shared with people who didn't actually cause the damage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Kevin?
Okay, wait a second, guys. You understand that corporations provide jobs for Canadians so they can feed their families. That's very important. We need those jobs. Where do they go to get the capital to start those businesses? They go to banks to get it. What do we do when they make profits? We tax them. If we tax them more than another country, they're just going to move the company to a better tax jurisdiction and we'll lose the jobs. Is that a good outcome for you guys?
Actually, to be honest, though, I think that a more important aspect for a strong economy is actually being able to instigate that demand. Corporation is not going to leave a highly developed country with a very strong intellectual capital, with lots of intellectual capital like Canada. If you increase the taxes on those,
you want to bet on that one?
You want to bet? Honestly, think about it. If you can increase the demand, okay, for the products being manufactured in Canada, because people can actually afford them, a little bit of an increase in taxes is not going to kill the corporation.
We're at time. Let me ask you this question. Yeah. One of the things that's happened so far is it is this kind of million-person around the world rallying without a leader. Do you think that it would be a stronger movement if, for instance, a leader in America emerged who could actually run for office? Or are you looking for sort of a figure to appear that actually takes this this loose movement and turns it into
No.
a tight one?
We don't want leaders. Okay, our leaders have not worked in the benefit of the people. The consensus is we're all leaders. We're all involved in this.
But hard to get anything done that way.
We got 13,000 people that signed up in Occupy Canada within 1 week. So if people have Facebook,
Do you expect them all to show up, 13,000
I expect
people?
thousands of people to come in the streets of
cannot
Toronto on
speculate.
October the 15th.
It's going to be difficult, but we would call out to people to please come. If you're one of those people who has typically been part of the silent majority, you know, those who have not actually been a part of voting or anything like this and just partaking in current affairs, it's best that you actually do come out. And just because it's obvious
Are you also
that
asking
greed...
to be peaceful and respectful
Yes,
of property
absolutely,
and all the
of
rest
course.
of it? Yeah.
How can we ask for anything other but peace? Anything other than peace? I mean,
All right.
it would take away from our message.
These are fundamental freedoms, the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, and we have to advocate that, and that's happening all around the world.
Yeah.
Don't arrest peaceful protesters, arrest criminal bankers.
Things
All right.
need to be better. Please come
Guys,
out.
we appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Derek Soberall, John Allen. And still ahead, profit surges for productivity software enhancer maker SAP. Does it tell anything about our economy? That's in My Money. Before that, though, Asher Tomlinson with the latest news.